You are now listening to the podcast for geeks and the stuff they love, where each week we'll talk about everything from anime to movies, games, and prop collecting with the people who create and love it. I'm Jeremy.
I'm Vince.
I'm James.
And this is your Geek Fix.
All right, Vince, here's my question for you. How big is space?
Very big.
It's something that can literally break your brain, because if you really get to thinking about it, I mean, if you want to prove that anything is possible, a quick example would be space, because space is eternal. It has no ending, which is something our brains can't really perceive, right? The idea, I mean, you think about, well, there has to be, everything has to have some end to something, and there has to be. It's impossible that there could be something that goes on forever, right? And yet that's exactly how space works. It's so big. And this is the other thing, is it's hard to perceive, is that it's not like we're talking just in one direction. There ought to be something called flat spacers, because I think a lot of times in media and in games and stuff, a lot of times they perceive it almost like it's a flat plane, like a map that just kind of goes out. And all truth, I mean, if you're off by just one increment, where you will wind up will be, millions of miles away from something else that was heading in generally the same direction. I mean,
and the fun thing is, though, with especially with sci-fi movies, like the ships always have an up and a down, and they always approach ships like they are boats instead of just having a three-dimensional space.
Yeah. I'll plug in my coordinates and meet you there. Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know. It's an interesting thing. The reason why I'm bringing it up is like, and this is true across, I think, any and all shows. I mentioned before, I mean, I have a background that's related to screenwriting and things and script analysis and stuff. I mean, there's some things you do and don't do when it comes to story making, and one of them that you have to be careful of is you have to be careful of the size of the world that you're in. And so a couple of shows that I wanted to talk about, one that I don't know if Vince has watched or not, but I think it's a similar thing I've seen happen.
The good thing is they're all set in space.
Yeah, they're all set in space. Yeah, that's true. The two that I'm thinking about are the Mandalorian, which goes beyond the Mandalorian, but you got the Mandalorian, and then on the flip side, you got Picard.
Have you watched Picard? I have for a bit, but I mean, every movie that you watch is set in space.
That's true. We right now, this podcast is set in space.
Exactly.
Yeah, on a rock that's moving really fast. So something else you want to think about too much.
That's the most annoying meme I ever learned about, is that every movie is set in space. So what are you talking about?
It's true.
Yeah.
Yep. Everything is always I mean, we're a very small. And that's a hard thing too. I mean, when you're thinking about it, like if I'm writing a story, if I'm thinking even about myself, it's easy to feel like your world is much bigger than it actually is. But when you look in terms of eternal space, I mean, it's very small, right? It's a small world. And the reason why this is coming up is that I think there's a couple of shows that are out there that both of which actually I like. So I'm not putting down either one. If you have a potential friend even that's in one of them, but at the same time, so like you said, Picard is one show, Mandalorian's another one, and they actually have some similarities that I want to hit on, but something I just kind of noticed across the line, and as far as success of these, is that both of them, season one was okay, with Picard, but I mean, both of them had a pretty good setup. The first season, the whole idea was, let's break some of the thing that we've been stuck in relation to both Star Trek and Star Wars. Let's start going outside of it. Let's visit some new places. Let's meet some new people. Let's Star Wars is big. Star Wars is that correct?
It's
the
break
Star
the mold,
Wars.
right? Yeah.
The Star Wars goal right now, the Disney Star Wars goal, is that they're going to try and get bigger and explore their universe more, because they do realize there's more than just going to Mos Eisley over and over again, right? I mean, it's a bigger place if we're in space.
5 desert planets you could go to.
we have, yeah. We'll go to the places to look at the exact same and shoot on the same set, but it's going to be a different planet. But I mean, like, the thing about space is, especially when you're in screenwriting, is that means you should be free now. We don't have to be bound to one thing. We can explore new things, and people want to see new things. One of the things that made Star Trek initially so good, and the whole purpose behind it was, to explore new places, new galaxies, meet new people, have this constant, every single episode we can explore something that's completely different, a whole different view. I think I mentioned on here I had watched the Star Trek, the animated series, which is funny on one hand to watch, but on the other hand, the benefit that the writers saw, as well as even the actors, was all of a sudden, in an era where they didn't have tons of special effects that they could do, all of a sudden they weren't being bound to what they could pull off. With the animated part, they could do anything that they wanted, so they could come up with any idea and they could actually make it happen. Huh? Yeah, Giant Spock is exactly what happened in it, right? And Spock's dog, we got to see Spock's dog. I mean, like, you get to see these things that they couldn't create reasonably before. And so, but now we have the technology, we talked last time about AI and everything else. We have the technology to be able to pull off something where you're exploring something completely new, completely different. But the downside is you can also get stuck inside of a loop of, this is the first issue I saw with the Picard series, is that, okay, well, we get to season 2 and, well, we've got people that we think our audience wants to come back, and we have, we also want to do some fan service, so we also want to have certain people there. And then what you end up doing is you have this place that's supposedly supposed to be unlimited in size, and yet somehow a limited number of characters are involved in everything.
The Forrest Gump effect.
Yeah. yeah, isn't it?
Yeah, so
I mean,
Forrest Gump meets the president, Forrest Gump invents Apple and all that kind of stuff, or whatever it was.
Yeah, he's just involved in everything. It's the same thing. Hospital shows used to get hit for this a lot. Was eventually, hospital shows on a TV for a little while. The thing that you should notice is there's only like 5 doctors that seem to be involved in every department and in every case, and you don't see anybody else inside the hospital that seems to be involved in anything. But we're talking about space now. We're talking about something where we're set in a place that's unlimited, and yet no matter where I go, I happen to run into the same 5 characters, which is what happened in the last season of Picard, particularly, is that they decided, well, we got to maintain all these people that we liked from last time. And the reason why I want to bring up Picard is because I've been watching this new season. Luckily, they have some actors that didn't sign up they had their own shows and things like that dropped off, which was the best thing that could happen for that series, because we're not now forced to stick with them. They're not sticking with that ship anymore. They're not sticking with everything else. This is a totally different show all of a sudden, where now, and it's dark. This is literally, basically the idea behind it is, what if we had the Next Generation, a TNG that was dark, and that was, based on the actors now, which started out great, because now they were back on a starship. Really. What's that?
I stopped after the first season with the whole flower fight and Picard being an android.
Things got a little bit, things got a little too, and then, like I said, it just felt forced, and it felt like they were trying to, make things too small. This season, it's literally, they're on a starship. This not Picard's, by the way, either. I liked that piece. I like the captain of the actual ship, because he's salty. I like, there was a lot of things that I do like about the series.
I like the actor.
Well, and the thing I really like about it is that they paint Picard as being bad and not perfect and not good and not making good decisions. And same thing with all of his previous crew. basically saying, no, you guys have made nothing but bad decisions, and you just happen to get away with it a lot, and this time you're not, and stuff like that.
There's this fan theory that people think that the TNG show actually was like propaganda that they show people to watch in the universe of Picard, so that it's like, oh yeah, Picard is like this hero, but the real stuff happening is far more dark and far more wrong than.
That's kind of how they painted it in this series, but that's been kind of an ongoing little thing that they've done in some of the movies too. Is like, well, we learn about you in Starfleet, but let's face it, everything that we've learned, it is propaganda to try and get people to join, or it's to make it look like everything that we've done is good. But they're pointing it out inside this series, as well as some of the other split-offs, the bad stuff.
In one way, I think it's interesting, but the other hand, I know it's a bit of a sign of the times to deconstruct everything and turn it into something that it's not. Like, same thing with the fan service that you say, but also with what you say, that this very small world. So, like every line in Star Wars now has a novel, basically. Yeah. Explaining why the line was made, or why Han Solo is called Han Solo, because he signed up at the office alone, and all that kind of stuff. So at some point you're kind of recycling the material or making it connect too much and make the world a lot smaller because of the connections that are made.
So I mean, even the first set of prequels, I've complained about this so many times, but it's just one of the biggest things that breaks my brain is the Anakin building C-3PO and then not recognizing him later on and stuff. It's always bugged me. Like they didn't have to do that. Leave C-3PO and R2 out of the initial series. They didn't have to exist then.
And the whole thing about Obi-Wan not knowing R2-D2. Because they can't compensate for that now. They go back. I wish, kind of like we talked about in our last episode, I wish that you could go in and you could just edit out certain pieces of the text and just fix the whole thing. But that's what George Lucas has been doing with the special edition.
That's right. Suddenly, this isn't as racist. I don't know. I mean, who actually has done this very well? Just a mild tangent, but a series that, if you haven't seen it yet, it started out as a YouTube series and then became a Netflix series, is the Cobra Kai TV series. Have you seen that?
Was that a YouTube series first? Yeah.
It started as a YouTube series.
Cool.
Sponsored by and made completely by the original stars that did that.
I thought by Coors Light.
No, because they do have a lot of it in that first few episodes. But no, I mean, they started out as that, and then they pitched it to
nice.
Mostly Netflix took it over. But they've done a really good job of doing literally that deconstructive piece. Is the first episode. I love the fact that in the first episodes they show Danny wasn't a good guy in the movie. They even cut it together where they're like, the guy that we always thought was the bad guy, he's like, what are you talking about? Like, I did nothing to you. You broke my radio. You tried to start a fight with me. I was leaving you alone. Then you sprayed us with water. Like, you're a bully. You're a bad guy. And, and that's kind of, they keep going back and forth, and they played it very well. They haven't overused it where they go back and forth and showing Danny's not a great guy. And then, it kind of goes back the other way.
The fun thing about that show, though, is
that last.
I watched the show, but all of a sudden, they did have, and they also mentioned it in the show, but it got a bit grating, is that everything had to be solved with karate. And that's what someone also said. It's like, there's this insane town in which people are just doing karate for everything. It's not healthy, so stay away from this guy, the LaRusso, because everything he does is karate, and it's just not healthy.
The taxes for our car dealership are off. We better start a tournament.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. I mean, it's true. But those are the things you got to watch out for, which is where, I mean, coming back to with the Mandalorian and with the Picard series, is I liked this new season of Picard until again, so we're shrinking the universe. The first thing that shrank the universe is, well, they need to go and they need to get a starship that happens to be going to this area to a certain quadrant, and it just happens that 9 is one of their previous individuals that they worked with happens to be on there. That happens to be in every season of this series. She happens to be on there. She happens to be the number one on that ship. All right. So okay, I'll take that part.
Happenstance.
And then there's an investigation going on by Starfleet, and it just happens that it's Worf that's running that, and so now he's on the ship, and then we need to go steal a starship, and we know that they have them at this museum, and LaForge happens to run that museum. Okay, and then we go.
He's doing Reading Rainbow that.
Yeah. Well, now he doesn't need the visor either. He has normal eyes. And so he went from being Kunta Kinte to Reading Rainbow. I mean, he's really doing well. He's
But I think
from a slave to that.
The plot device that they use, though, is just destiny, right? Those people are destined to meet up again, and that's the whole hand
they do
waving.
say that even in this. Like, I'll give them that. They actually wrote it in there where they're like, well, obviously, this was meant to be because we're all here. Because each person they run into, they're like, it is kind of the whole idea of this one is that the people have their own lives now and they have their own responsibilities. Like Forge has his 2 daughters. He wants to keep them protected. He doesn't want to be involved in this. He's also one of those that comes out really angrily and does not like Picard and says, hey, I'm not, I have a family, I have a purpose. I feel like you guys are doing things that are just willy-nilly and I'm not going to be involved in that sort of thing anymore. Yeah. Each one of them, they have this counter argument. And in the end, Picard and whoever will say, well, but obviously this was meant to happen. If we didn't, we wouldn't have run into each other like this otherwise. But it's still it's making the things smaller. If it would have just been Picard and maybe one other person, and now they're going to a new place, and they've got this new thing that's a problem. It just happens the Crusher's son, who is Picard's son, is on this ship that they went out there to, suddenly we have all of TNG is back together, which
Voyager's popping in as well.
It did.
Yeah.
As well as they just stole the cloaking device from the same place where Voyager was located. Okay. So all the big ships happen to be stored at this museum.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I just saw it on Twitter come by with all the actors saying
Janeway's kind of keeps getting brought up too quite a bit. Okay. But and some of her people are in this one. But at the same time, they just stole the cloaking device from the Bird of Prey that they used in Star Trek 4, the one where they went, I think it was Star Trek 4, wasn't it? Where they went to save the whales from Earth.
It was 4, I think.
Yeah, I think it was 4.
It was a fun one
where they went to San Francisco. So it happens to be there at this place, and so they steal it to be able to cloak their ship and stuff. But I mean, it's like this could be a really good show, but they're focusing too much on, and it's almost like they're detouring from the storyline because how do we fit in? We got to find some way to make sure that we have an appearance by this person, so we can do the fan service. And
but
in that way,
the last season or not? Or are they continuing?
He's so old.
No. I get that, but
I mean, you gotta be concerned that he's gonna.
Well, yeah, I had a similar thing going on because I'm gonna meet Ian McDermott, like the Emperor, soon.
Oh yeah.
And the only reason why I want to shell out $90 is like I looked at his age on Wikipedia. It's like 76.
Your opportunities are.
Yeah. So I'm like, I want to see the Emperor before he croaks again.
I've had some of those similar situations where I had the opportunity and I passed it up, and then it doesn't happen with a couple of people I talked about on here.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I had a Harold Ramis I could have met.
Oh wow.
I have his autograph that I got before that time because I wrote him and he actually literally wrote back. But
nice.
I had that opportunity. I didn't assume I wouldn't have another opportunity. It was just too far, I thought at the time. If I would have gone, I could have actually literally hung out with them briefly, and I missed that opportunity. So yeah, you get opportunities that come along, you get to jump on them because you never know what happens.
But that's what they do with Star Trek.
Anyone,
if you can pop by LaForge, you should do so, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Did you ever see the Reading Rainbow? Speaking of which, did you ever see the Reading Rainbow? Because he was doing both shows back in the day. Reading Rainbow and Star Trek. And
the funny thing is,
he did it behind the scenes on Reading Rainbow.
Oh, wow.
Of Star Trek: The Next Generation, and then talked to the people that were there, and he showed how it works, because he was trying to show, the whole purpose of that episode was to show how the difference between fantasy and reality, and that, things that we see on TV aren't, like, they're not real, or if somebody gets hurt, it's not real, but you also can't repeat stuff in real life and stuff. But he showed all the, like, special effects. It was actually the best behind the scenes ever done of I think, of Next Generation. It was done on Reading Rainbow. But,
oh, cool.
But similarly, jumping over to, so now we go over to Mandalorian, which the great thing about Mandalorian 2, the first season, was it was following that, the whole spaghetti Western, philosophy, and specifically they were actually trying to mirror an old Japanese director and writer who had a number of kung fu and karate movies that were the same kind of thing. Like, the person wanders from town to town, they have their child with them, or a child, and they always get into these little things that happen.
Which one?
What's that?
Was that Jojimbo or the other one?
I gotta look it up. I used to know but I mean, yeah, they're. Oh shoot, yeah, they're. I had to put it. Maybe I'll put it in the description if I'll have to look it up afterwards. But
we can edit it with AI.
I mean, yeah, because I remember the one that they literally based it on was the one where the kid, he thinks that his family are all dead, but his child is still alive, and the house is burning, and he saves the child.
Hey, James,
the house is made of paper and wood. Is that the one?
I don't know.
Hello. James is here. Hi, James.
Hello. So, the whole me trying to record the transportation while driving sort of thing didn't work out.
Crashed it. That's okay. we were just talking about. We're just wrapping up. We were talking about movies that have. That are even based in space, where it's like you have eternal distance. The fact that they seem to keep bringing back the same, like they just happen to run into the same characters no matter where they go.
Yeah.
We started to talk about
James just pops up all of a sudden.
Yeah, just out of nowhere. But the one that we were just talking about, just wrapping up real quick is we were talking about Mandalorian, which in the initial season was okay because they were introducing new people. But now, literally, this season it's my problem with this season is it's so fan servicey.
Right.
It's like literally each episode is, how do we go revisit and bring back this character or that character? And it doesn't really, I get where they kind of made it work with the story, but I felt like it went outside of it. The best part that I thought was, because I binge watched a few of them last night, the best one I thought was the one with the scientist, without giving him way too much information.
They call it the mandalorian.
Yeah. Oh, but it was so good, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I thought that one was pretty good. I think that's how they should do these sorts of things, is instead of having him like go out of his way, like you could follow people. You could almost like
watch Andor
the
already?
Death and Robots. I finished. I'm about to finish it. So I like to binge them because I hate watching and then waiting another week. And that series kind of is a little bit slower pace. And so I really wanted to, so I backed them up. So I haven't finished it all the way. So don't tell me something.
Oh, it's poetic. It's poetic. It's one of the best Star Wars I've ever seen. It's like poetry.
And I'm actually still one episode behind too on Mandalorian. So there might be something I haven't seen yet too there. Although I know about Paul's piece in it and stuff, but I mean, it just feels like they should have done it kind of like Love, Death, and Robots, where it's like they go someplace, you get to see something new, like seeing those apartments that they had and seeing the jobs and that city. That felt nice. That was a great episode. I think they should do more of this like that. Like again,
I think it's that they're testing the waters to see what the people like and don't like, and then they'll move on from that.
Well, it was even okay. So, I mean, literally, not only did they split off, but they even gave it a different title. Was when they did the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, which
You know
was
what I
not the
mean?
greatest series ever.
It wasn't, but I mean, at the same time, they split off and they kind of investigated that area.
But
literally
in that
the first
regard, like,
episode.
the parallels between Picard are pretty evident with Book of Boba Fett. There's all old people huffing and puffing around space.
Yeah. It's hard to reverse. Well, here's the thing about Picard too. Going back to that one for a second, where you're forcing something.
Yeah.
So, they've had Spinner, who's inside that's Data and multiple other characters from Star Trek, inside of all the seasons so far. He's played different characters in each of the seasons. But he's played himself at his current age, basically. In the first season, they tried to fake making him look like he did back in the day. So they try to clean him up a little bit, make him look younger. But this season, they wanted to bring a version of Data back.
Oh, yeah.
But they didn't want to do anything. They could have done something CG. They could have done something to make him look, like he would have Data-wise. But instead, what they come up with is, Yoon actually, soon came up with the idea that he's going to make an android this time that looks older, so people are happier or easier able to collaborate with him. So now he's his own age as Data.
But also, like,
really, it feels like a stretch.
His grandfather.
Even when he wakes up, he's like, "Why am I so old?"
But also, like, his grandfather is like his identical twin. It's so cheap. But I think also they use it as a running gag, I guess, because they've been doing it for
right now. He's both. So he's again. I'm not giving too much away, but
he's getting double billed as well, I guess.
Basically, they couldn't separate the two out. So he's actually both characters inside of one body. And so you don't know when he's going to be evil and when he's going to be good. So he goes back and forth.
So he's corrupted Data.
And so, I don't know. But at the same time, I mean, like, same thing. Mandalorian, I just feel like the thing that's disappointed me this season is literally the first episode. They went to like 5 places for like 2 minutes just to show a previous actor.
It gets better.
Why?
Though. It gets
I
better.
don't know.
But
does it get better?
One thing I want to say about Picard, though, is that I think Picard is very much actor-driven, which way they're going with the characters.
Yeah.
And I think,
especially
true. If you hear about Patrick Stewart talk about how he didn't like the character of Picard and how he was in the original show and how he would have liked it. You see that.
Yeah, he's playing him the way he wanted to play him now.
Exactly. And all the other actors as well. They basically put whatever issues they had with TNG and they just put it in their characters. And that's showing. And that makes the contrast pretty hard because they are actors who are, of course, disassociated with the characters. And they're actors who are, aged a couple of decades after that.
Well, they even leaned into his age on the area where I say that it has worked, like you said, where they've shown that he's flawed, is they've leaned into the idea that, maybe between him being old with older values and stuff, but also maybe some dementia kinds of things that they put in there at times, where it's you're making bad decisions. Where Riker even turns against him at one point and yells at him and stuff.
Prion disease that he has, right? The stuff that they hinted on in TNG that he has, like this.
Yeah. Well, his son has it too now.
Oh, okay.
So that's part of this. This is really focused on that too. But I mean, that's that, and the pieces of that are okay. Those would work. But again, going back to like Mandalorian and stuff, is I feel like if they could just edit out, don't worry about the fan service. Don't worry about the previous actors. This is only a story about him and I hate using the Grogu name, but him and Baby Yoda.
Yeah. Well,
that's what the series is supposed to be about.
There's a lot of storylines intertwining now with Andor, with the Bad Batch, and with Mandalorian.
Yeah.
That are all going to work towards, I think, a very big reveal if you haven't watched the expanded universe yet.
Probably another movie or something.
So
too,
if you ever want to get like top tier Star Wars lore that is not official yet, watch the Timothy Zahn trilogies. Like after.
Oh, really?
So basically, when there was no Disney and when there was only like the movies, Timothy Zahn basically took upon himself to write what happened after the Battle of Endor. and he made like an expanded universe. And most of the stuff happening right now is either based on it or just plain copied from it.
Yeah,
Oh, really? So you can kind of see the. That's kind of like anime, though, where you could be reading the manga, and then you're like, oh, but now I expect for the anime to go that same direction, and then when's if it? Because you still got in the end the other issue that you got to consider on both these sides. You got Paramount on one side that has their own service, and they're really leaning heavily on relying on
Brands.
all the Star Trek stuff because there's tons of it to help them out. And then on the flip side, you got Disney, who's really, leaning on Marvel and Star Wars to try and carry them. And they have their own goals where they're changing. This is where, if you're a fan and you're a geek, where and they're even geek shaming, trying to change things in ways that's like, but that's not the story. You know what I mean? So
one thing I do want to hope to see, and they did it in the books very well, is that whenever someone is cloned, they have an extra like, for example, Luke Skywalker would have been Luke with 2 U's. And
extra letters here.
Extra letters in their name, so they know
that gives it away.
Yeah. So there's like this dark Jedi called Jorus Zubaut or something like that. And that's a dark Jedi behind a lot of things. And then all of a sudden they meet the clone, and all of a sudden you see like one extra U in his name. They're like, that's the clone.
Oh, clearly. If they just read his name, they'd know better.
Yeah, but they pronounce it the same, so it's it's like a 4th generation clone.
I think it's separated out.
Yeah.
I hope let us know what you guys think about these and other series that are out there, because it's hard in sci-fi not to run into this problem.
Yeah.
But just curious as to how you feel. I'm really rooting for something that's new, that's fresh, and where we can not have to worry so much about fan service or about.
Well, The Expanse is a good example of a good sci-fi show. That's really good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That had Adam Savage in it. They killed him in it.
Which was kind of universe breaking because I didn't need that.
They froze him. I remember when I saw that, I was like, "What the?" Yeah, they've got some. Yeah, they got several things that relate to me, and it that threw me off. That's the only reason why I kept watching the show. I was like, "What the?"
But again,
they don't even prepare you for it.
No.
It's just
but again, everybody listening, remember, every movie is set in space. This podcast is set in space as well.
That's right.
So,
so we're not the only space podcast, but we're going to push it.
Yeah.
What's that, James?
Vinz is in an actual space pod at the moment.
That's right. Yeah, that's why he looks that way. If you've enjoyed this podcast and want more, stay tuned for that, but also check out our channel, join the community on YouTube that goes by the same name, your Geek Fix. Be sure to check out Vinz on Twitter at massivedmg_ and on his YouTube channel, massivedmg. Check out James at Mr. Malto4 on Instagram and the Replica Prop Forum. We also want to hear from you, so be sure to send your questions, stories, and other projects to yourgeekfix@gmail.com. In the meantime, this has been your Geek Fix.